are Tara, Mike, and Jill from Living on a Dime. Today we are talking about the prepping secret that no one is talking about. Now, actually, I kind of stole this from one other prepper.
What?
I stole this from City Prepper, and I'm like, yes, that is kind of what we've been talking about. He just phrased it much better. So I guess he's talking about it, but he's the only person that I've heard talking about it. So when I say no one, I should say very few people because he's the only one that I know of. But
almost in there with a little carrot thing.
Yes, exactly. So today I'm giving you the secret that nobody is talking about for prepping. All right. Now, I have some people that are kind of going to be, what? Are you kidding me? But this is what it really boils down to. Are you guys ready? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready. Come on. Let's go. Are you ready, dear?
There's a thumbs up.
All right. The secret that no one is talking about. You are not prepping. You are actually just buying time. And that's what we're going to kind of talk about today. And
now you're getting some thumbs up.
Oh, thank you, guys.
They were waiting to see if they liked it first.
So we're going to talk about how you're not actually prepping, you're buying time. And the reason why we're talking about this is if you didn't see my video 2 days ago, I had literally just finished editing that day's video. And it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was sitting on the porch because it was a lovely day out. And all of a sudden, the wind kicks up. The temperature drops about 20 degrees. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what is going on? We were supposed to have sprinkles. And so I was frantically grabbing up my computers, and one of them's a new computer that costs more than our car. So Mike is like, you better take care of that thing. I'm awful.
Videos easier.
Yeah. Yes, it's a work computer because my old computer was choking with doing the video editing. So I got in,
and I'm on the other side of town, and I told my mom, I said, it feels like it's hailing someplace. There it is.
And for those of you who don't have hail, what you don't know is it's there is a distinct change in the temperature and weather. And why it's formed is because it goes from really, really hot to really, really cold, super, super fast, moving, and it freezes in the sky before it comes down, of course. So anyway, hail is not anything that's new to me. I have probably had my garden hailed on every single year that I've been gardening. Probably. Maybe not when we were in Idaho. So maybe three.
No, Idaho's the only place we did.
Yeah, have. Maybe, but we had snow on the 4th of July. So I think that would kind of negate that.
Oh, yeah.
So the whole hail video was to give you guys, to kind of bring across a point. Now, I was having a mild hysterical breakdown. As it started happening, I started filming because what happened was that morning, I had literally finished planting my last plant. I've spent the last 4 weeks.
I was going to say, she has worked nonstop
busting my
on
butt.
My yard and her yard, killing herself. Yeah.
I've been busting my butt. And let me tell you, my butt has hurt at the end of the day. And so has Mike's. We have been hauling compost. We have been building raised beds.
Oh, yeah.
We have been hauling wood chips. We have been building more raised beds. And we have worked and worked and worked.
Because she's starting a garden and everything
from scratch. Mm-hmm. Basically from scratch. And so.
Actually, we did a lot. We probably have a couple thousand square feet of things planted all together, right?
And so I
all
did
over different spots in the yard.
Yeah, in different spots in the yard. And so I've been planting for about 10 days or so. I literally that Monday morning got the last plant in the ground. I'm like, oh, yes, I got the last plant in the ground. And so then I'm sitting there editing the video and I'm like, what is going on? And so I come in and I grabbed the phone because I thought, I think something's going to happen. I need to start filming. I wasn't expecting hail, actually. I was expecting wind though. Even though the temperature dropped, it was warm enough that I honestly didn't think it would be hailing. And that morning we had a chance of light showers.
Yeah.
Light showers.
We were supposed to get hail like 2 or 3 days earlier.
On Friday, we were supposed to have golf ball size
Huge
hail.
amount, and we didn't get anything.
We got nothing.
Now, for you guys to understand, where we live at, we have no real radio, no TV station that can give us the weather properly. Our closest weather is like, 100 miles or more away, one direction, and like 200 or something the other direction. So we cannot get weather for actually our area. It's really hard. And when we first moved here, they said, oh, they'll tell you how much snow you'll get, but it's just up in the air how much we'll actually get or that type of thing, because we can't have proper weather here.
Yeah. And so all of a sudden, I was sitting there watching it, and I was like, whoa, those are really big raindrops. And then I realized those are not raindrops. Those are hailstones. So I got comment after comment after comment about, well, first of all, everybody swears it's the weather being manipulated. No, this is called, well, Happy Sky, you'll have to go back and see what the secret is because I just gave it. Weather manipulation. Everybody was like, oh, it's the weather manipulation. Or I had several people, one lady was like, watch the Weather Channel, goodness. Or another one was, check the weather, duh. Or why didn't you check the weather? I did check the weather. The weather does not always turn out right, as the majority of you know.
Even when you have a weather station in your town, it doesn't always turn out right. Here, it's just a toss up.
So then
yeah, our weather is very inaccurate.
Yeah. And so then the other common comment I got was, well, why didn't you cover it all up? Now, if you guys have been with us for any amount of time, you know that every year we got 2 or 3 hailstorms in Colorado. It's how we paid for 50% of our cars. We actually got more from hail damage by claiming insurance than we even paid for the cars. It was a sweet deal for us because we buy cheap used cars. But I could throw a blanket over the car in like 20 seconds. There's no way I could possibly cover all of these flowers
all the way
and tomatoes
across on the end of their property on the opposite direction from where half of her flowers are. So she's got them spread out, and she was by herself.
Yeah, I couldn't have
to try with that wind and all that to try to do
have to find rocks to tarp it down. The wind was really bad, and I had person after person say, "Well, why didn't you just cover it up? Why didn't you grab buckets? Why didn't you grab blankets?" You can't. Yes. If you have 1 or 2 pots or something, you can do that. Or if you have a small flower bed, you can do that. But you cannot always prevent things like hail happening. And that's why the secret, here you go, whoever was asking, is you're not preparing. You're buying yourself time. If that hail would have completely taken out my garden and demolished it, like several people in the comments said that they've had happen this year and over in the years past, where they had hail, they had freezing temperatures one day, and then it was bleeding hot the next day, and it totally killed them. The bugs, floods. One lady said that she didn't know her house was in a floodplain, and she totally wiped out her old garden. You never know when things are going to happen, or even if you do know if they're going to happen, you may not be able to do anything about it. And so that is why we keep telling you, prepare what you can, but you are not going to be able to prepare for it all.
No.
There's just no way. There's no physical way I could have covered my plants, even if I wanted to. There was no warning. They did put a thunderstorm watch out about two hours earlier, but when I looked, it was just supposed to be lightning and heavy rain. No hail was predicted, nothing. And I get it. I have lived in thunderstorm country for probably 30 years of my life. I totally understand that a lot of times hail comes with thunderstorms, but nowadays, a lot of times they tell you if hail is coming. And so, you've got to, first of all.
Well, to let you know, I have 2 pots of flowers, and it was all I could do to get those 2 pots of flowers pulled and under cover. My mom was trying to help me get those silly flowers in and protected, and we barely got my 2 pots done. There was no way you could have done anything.
Well, one thing. Sorry, I thought you were wrapping it.
That's fine.
One thing that I was just going to say on that is that when Tara says you're just buying time, you're not prepping per se.
Yeah.
The idea with prepping is you're trying to be prepared for the things that you can anticipate, but you just can't anticipate every possible thing. It's just not possible. So the idea is to prepare for what you can and then be able to improvise on the rest. And some things like the garden, we don't know how it's going to come out yet, but we've had things in the past where when we were paying off debt a long time ago, and suddenly we had a giant medical thing happen, and we didn't at the time have our same rules for ourselves that we have now. So we ended up putting that on a credit card. Or it's kind of like I was telling Tara, if you're building a house and, you have it partially constructed and then a giant windstorm comes through and knocks it down, you can't predict that, but you can be sort of prepared for most things. And then on the things where you get caught by surprise, then you have to roll with it and improvise at the time.
Well, it's better than not doing anything at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Having anything at all, and what she's talking about too, for example, we talk about on the food to have some food that you don't have to cook and then other that you cook, because you have to be prepared in case you can't cook, and it'll buy you time. The food that you don't have to cook will buy you a few days time where you can sit and, instead of stressing and trying to figure out how to get food cooked, you can spend that time trying to figure out what you need to do next and how to help you with the next step, and that type of thing. So you get blankets, at least you have some blankets. It's better having blankets, and you may need more heat in that, but at least you've got something. So it's always better to have a little bit of something and prepare for some stuff to help you buy that 1, 2, 3 days of time where you can sit down and think, okay, now how are we going to fix this situation?
Okay, so let me finish telling my story real quick so I don't lose my thought here. There's another aspect to this also. When you guys saw me mildly losing it, oh, thank you, Shiloh, for the Bible. For the Bible help.
Thanks.
She says, I know you usually do it for Bibles. But
to replace my plants. Oh, thank you.
That's so sweet.
Thank you. But here's another thing you have to think. You have to think quickly. People were criticizing me right and left in the comments for not covering my plants. But let me tell you, I was not willing to risk getting harmed going into the hail to save my plants. It was not worth it. As fast as it was coming and as fast as it started coming down, I didn't know how big it was going to get. It could have started getting as big as golf balls. And let me tell you, that'll knock you out.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not want to be laying in the driveway by myself, knocked out with hailstones. And when things like this happen, you have to stay on your toes and you have to think straight. And that's why I was filming and not covering my stuff. Now, there's another aspect to this. I know I was getting a little upset because at first I was just like, I literally just finished planning like 4 hours ago. 4 hours. That's all. And I started to lose it. And then I started laughing because I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. So I'm sitting here crying and laughing at the same time, trying to collect myself. And I did, but you cannot, I got myself under control. But you can have, this is the next point that I want to make. You can have your momentary breakdown, but don't stay in your momentary breakdown.
That's the secret. We're all going to lose and be stressed.
And here's the thing. Oh no.
I don't even know where she's
I don't
going.
either, Michael.
It's like-
I'm just holding my breath here.
There's a little Tara moment here. Here's the thing. Probably 40 to 50% of the comments were nasty or just mean or just judging on that video. And people were saying things like, well, at least you're not a farmer. Think how they feel. Well, at least you have a house. It's only a garden. It doesn't matter. It is okay to be upset when something happens.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we are spoiled Americans living in an expensive house with rooms full of food, it is okay to get upset when something bad happens. And it makes me so angry when people just start saying things like, well, at least you're not a farmer. Let me tell you, those farmers have insurance on their crops to at least cover their crops. I get it. There are people with tornadoes who their house has been completely wiped out with a tornado. They had not updated their insurance like they were supposed to. And so now they can't rebuild. It's going to cost them $150,000, $200,000 more to rebuild them than the insurance is going to pay them. It's okay to be upset about these things. But where it needs to stop is you can't dwell and dwell and dwell on it. I got upset for a minute. Then I realized, you know what? There ain't
It's a day in the life.
there ain't squat I can do about this. So I might as well at least get a good video out of it. And I know people are going to be really upset for me saying that, but this is our business, and showing our lives and doing videos is our business. So I went from feeling sorry for myself to kicking into a business mode, and let's make lemonade out of lemons and tell people why they should be stockpiling. This is why you stockpile. Yes, your stockpile may get blown away in a tornado, or your house may be the only one left standing when the entire town is wiped out, like Greensburg, Kansas was about 10, 15 years ago. It happens all the time, but you can't sit here and wallow in your misery and get upset, get it over with, and make a plan on what you're going to do next.
Yeah. And it's kind of like when people saying, well, she shouldn't be upset because look at what the poor farmers do. It's like, have you ever stubbed your toe to the point of breaking it? And do you know how bad that hurts?
I do, actually.
She does. It'll bring tears to your eye. The pain is horrible stubbing that toe. You know, I wouldn't say to Tara when she stubs her toe like that, well, you should be at least thankful that your leg's not cut off, you know, because it hurts. Even those little things hurt. And she's right, because we can feel the pain, but then you just stop it and, you know, get over it and move on. And if you'll notice, she started laughing. We said in a couple of videos ago that one of the main things to help you through these types of things is to keep your sense of humor. And she did. She started laughing, and she even called me. And then my mom and I were about in tears with her because we knew how hard she'd worked. She didn't even get to see those plants for a full day with everything, you know, done. And so our hearts were breaking for her. And yes, there's worse things going on in the world. But for that moment, in that moment, for her, it hurt really bad, like stubbing her toe. And it could have been worse. But you know, you just move on, you laugh, and she started laughing on the phone when she was talking to me. But she's very wise in that then you go and you do something with what the mess is, you know, what's happened to you. You just don't sit there and wallow and feel sorry for yourself. You shake it off and you just think, okay, now what am I going to do next? And go on, like what she said.
That's why I'm saying you're not prepping You are giving yourself time. You are buying yourself time to figure out what to do. And your job is to figure out what to do. And it's going to be, you know, there are days where I have lost all hope in humanity. I really have. And I'm just like, if something really bad actually happens, people are not going to be able to make it. It's just absolutely flabbergasting how people can't think for themselves. How many comments I get over and over and over. How do I stockpile for a gluten-free diet? How do I stockpile for a diabetic diet? How do I'm vegan, I'm vegetarian. How do I stockpile? We get those questions all the time. This is not rocket science. Figure it out.
Stop and think. You're supposed to be stockpiling with food that you eat. It should be very simple to figure this out, you know.
I'm gluten-free. But I have to still stockpile flour and sugar and everything else for my family. But we have plenty of rice noodles, plenty of, Cheerios. Well, we're almost out of Cheerios, believe it or not. But, there are other things, canned chicken, fruits, vegetables, all those kinds of things that I can eat. If I was on a diabetic diet, it would be the canned chicken. It would be the canned tuna. It would be the vegetables. It would be the fruit in their own juices. This is just common sense, but people don't want to take the time to stop and think about it and figure it out. And when I had my momentary breakdown, I was like, okay, my plants may be gone, but this is going to be a good video. So I went with the flow. Now, yes, that's really petty. I get that. But if your house is blown away by a tornado, what are you going to have to do? First of all, if you're evacuating, you have to keep your wits about you to know what you're going to take with you and what you're going to leave. If you're going down into the basement, why don't you just keep all your papers ready in the basement? When we lived in Kansas, that's what we did. Mom lived in Kansas. She kept all of her important stuff in the basement. It was just always down there.
Any heirlooms I had.
She had flooding at her old house. So everything was up in the basement so that when her basement would flood, nothing would get ruined. But that's what you're prepping for. You do that stuff ahead of time so you don't have to worry so much when it starts flooding that not only are you having to deal with the flooding, now your insurance papers have been ruined and you can't find them.
And part of this, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say something else on that whole thing is with the gardens. Tara had just put the gardens in. And honestly, she was out there. Well, she and I were out there for hours and hours and hours for weeks putting the hardscape together. And then she was out there for another week or two, a lot of hours putting the plants in. And it was immediately after that this happened. Well, somebody else said maybe an object lesson further back in the show. And it's true. We've tended in the past to say, oh, whoops, this has happened. How do we prevent this in certain ways in the future? So like for some of Tara's most important things, we might actually make we saw a lady in town that had a hoop house over the top of it that was designed to prevent damage from most of the hail. And so we might do something like that, but that would be as we're developing the gardens further thing. But a lot of times a disaster that's unexpected, and this isn't a disaster like, we're losing something that's going to, set us back for months and months and years. But even if you have a disaster that's that size, that's the point where you say, how do I deal with preparing in case this ever happens again?
Yeah, and one thing.
And on the garden things, some of the plants, if they get destroyed, it's really sad in the moment, but it's not a catastrophe. Other ones are a lot more important, and then those are the ones we want to figure out, how do we protect them?
And one thing you need to do along with this prepping stuff and everything is to practice. I just recently saw a video, and they had two different families practice. Well, what happened was they said, okay, you need to get out of your house in 10 minutes to these two different families. The one family had practiced ahead of time. The husband and the wife said, you're going to get this and I'll get this and what we're going to take. They had a list of what they're going to take and that type of thing. And they were out of the house very easily with a couple of kids in 10 minutes. The other family hadn't practiced one thing. They had no idea. The husband said, oh, I need to go upstairs and get some of the kids' clothes and toys, and when he went up there, the office was up there with important papers, and the wife assumed that he was getting the important papers, and he came down. He hadn't gotten one important paper, and they were already in the car ready to drive off. Nobody had the important papers, and she forgot her purse, so she had to run back in and get the purse. It was just complete chaos that nobody knew what the other was doing. The kids said, get a couple of toys. Well, the kids came out with these huge stuffed animals, that were just like half the size of a bed, that they were going to stuff in the car with them. And then
the dad was like, okay, we'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take it, And the dad was grabbing the guitar. Now, I know that might have been
Hold on a second, though. You know what the most important thing they didn't do first, and they should have? They should have had all those kids strapped in their car seats and in seat belts sitting in the car waiting while the parents did it.
Yeah, yeah. And so these are types of things you need to walk through. It won't take you that long to sit down with your spouse and you guys write down a list. I have like a list of things emergency list. I even have it marked with a red paper clip so I can flip right to my little notebook and know what to go and go 1, 2, 3. The very most important things I have as close to my door, to my garage where I'm going to get in the car as I possibly can. And otherwise, then I just keep going down my list. They did really well, the ones that had practiced, they knew what to do and what to get. And so you need to do this ahead of time. Tar and Mike, when the kids were little, they would take and do like a fire drill at home. They would show the kids how to run to the neighbor's tree and stand close to the neighbor's tree. They were out of harm's way, but they were in a safe spot, all these things. This is how you prepare ahead of time and do this stuff. You can't just think, well, I've got all this food in the basement now, so I'm okay. No, you've got to get a small box. My paperwork fits in one small file cabinet or file box with a handle. So all they have to do is just grab that up and carry it out to the car. It's very, very simple. Keep these things in a certain way so that it's easy to move everything in 10 minutes.
Yeah,
less.
and Mike just put the link in for our free practical stockpile cookbook, guys. Go grab that. We have lists on stockpiles and stuff, and we're continually adding to that book. And I'm going to be adding some more things later. And when they're added, you'll just be able to update it. But
don't we have a list on emergency things too?
Yeah, but we have a couple of emergency lists in there on things to buy and things to have on hand and that kind of thing. But the big point that we really, really want to push is you are never going to be prepared for everything. You're not.
Mm-hmm.
You can stockpile all the food you want in the world. Well, if an armed, what's it called? It starts with an M. When a whole group of people come and
mob.
When an armed mob, well, maybe it's mafia. When an armed mob comes to your house to take all of your food that you've been stockpiling, what are you going to do? Well, you'll tell them about Jesus. And you'll say, you know what? You can take my food, but I know Jesus. Let me tell you about him. And you think I'm kidding, but I'm serious. I'm dead serious.
Mm-hmm.
You have got to get in that mindset because your faith does not lie in your garden. Your faith is not in your stockpile. Your faith is not in your 401k. Your faith is not in your house, in your kids, your husband, your wife, your job. And you have got to stop idolizing those things to the point where you have so much faith in those things that if they all went away, what would you do? And you need to continually really be in that state of mind. I always I mean, we kind of do it half joking, but around here, I'm like, okay, well, what would you do if I died? Or, well, if I wasn't here, what would you be doing? You have to run through scenarios through your mind all the time. Okay, our house is completely burned to the ground. What are we going to do now? You know, and if you think about those things ahead of time, it's not that big of a deal. Like, you know, okay, so let's say I die tomorrow. Where's Mike going to bury me? Do you know where you would bury me?
Nope.
I'd be stuck with Mike and the kids.
In the garden. You said just dig a hole and plug you into the garden.
Thank you. See, he knows to just roll me into the garden. No, but we haven't talked about it since we moved. Where are we going to be buried if we die here in Wyoming? All of our family's in Colorado, but is it worth hauling a body all the way to Colorado just to bury him? Probably not. I'd probably just be buried here. But you talk about those things, not in a lot of people say, oh, that's just morbid. Oh, that's just morbid. No, you plan it out so you know when it happens what you're going to do. I know when Mom croaks, I'm having a party with a really big tombstone. She's already told me she wants the Leaning Tower of Pisa or a tombstone.
So we sell her house and use the proceeds to build a tombstone.
Everything from her house is going to pay for her tombstone.
I
already knew that
or anything. I just want the tombstone.
She just wants the pyramids for a tombstone.
But you see, we're laughing about this. You know, we're trying to be serious, but at the same time, we do, you know, you have to keep it lighthearted a little bit. But you can do that if you're prepared and you know what, you know, and you know what you're supposed to be doing and things like that. So,
and you know, go ahead, guys, and post questions. We're going to get to the questions now. Here, Mike's going to pull them. So just put question and put your question in there, and we'll start answering them real quick. But, you know, after I put my food storage video on, which was like 4 videos ago or something, showing my food storage, everybody was like, well, you shouldn't show that. What if people come and get it? What are you going to do? Well, first of all, they're going to be greeted with Mr. Smith and Mr. Wesson. And if they have Mr. Smith and Mr. Wesson on their side, whoever has more Mr. Smith and Mr. Wesson than the other person, and if we don't win, I'm just going to tell them about Jesus, unless I'm dead. But seriously, but you can't just sit around and say, woe is me. The sky is falling. What is going to happen?
Yeah.
I know in that video, I was laughing and crying at the same time. And maybe it was just a mild breakdown. But you kind of have to get in that mode for emergencies. You're going to have to kick yourself in the buns and say, no, I'm not going there. We're going to figure out what's going to happen. And I get people in apartments or people on disability or people on Social Security, and they're like, well, I just don't know what I'm supposed to do. Or one of the latest comments was, well, the middle class can stock up, but the rest of us, there's nothing we can do. Yeah, there's a lot you can do. You just don't want to do it. So that's kind of my rant anyway. I didn't mean to turn into a rant. I'm sorry. But I did.
You did want it to be a rant, didn't you?
But, you know, I mean, this is our biggest problem that we see with people is they don't want to figure it out themselves. And you cannot possibly prep for everything.
It's kind of fear too. You don't want to face it. And if you can't face just the thought of something happening, how are you going to face it when something actually happens? You know, you've got to get over that fear.
And you're prepping all your preps. All it's doing is possibly buying you some time. Well, because, you know, we think Jesus is coming back soon. If he doesn't come back in the next year, I'll be real surprised. But anyway, for those people who are left here on the earth, you cannot possibly prepare for the 7-year tribulation that's going to be happening afterwards. There's no way you can possibly prepare. And So you're going to have to realize this is buying me time to get through till I can figure out what to do for the next thing, till I can get a garden started, till I can start bartering, till I can sell some things or whatever. But, you know, I think things really are just going to keep getting worse. Mike's the ever pessimist, or I mean optimist. I'm the ever pessimist. I'm trying not to be too pessimistic, but honestly, I just don't see, things have gone, I think we're on the down of the roller coaster.
I mean, we said this,
and I think we're sailing quickly down to the depths. And I just don't see us getting out of this. So anyway, all right. Did you have anything more to say on that?
No.
Do you have
You're
anything
doing
more to say
fine.
on that?
Michael, I'll go eat supper and we'll let you.
I'm just looking for questions.
Okay, send me the questions.
Wait. Oh, let me share the link for the Practical Stockpile Cookbook again.
Okay, so we have a free
Oops.
Practical Stockpile Cookbook, guys. Also, you can get it for free. It's just an ebook. Also, don't forget, we still have planners in stock, guys. These are our huge 366-day planners, undated. And all of our cookbooks are 25% off. Mike's grabbing me questions. That's why I'm
also
showing
sharing
you.
the book link as
This
well.
is our gluten-free, dairy-free one. And then this is our volume 1 right here. And if you don't have a Bible, we give away free Bibles. No, what's it called? Strings attached. It's totally free. If you don't have a Bible, if you need an easy to read, large print Bible, we give them for free. If you would like one, livingonadime.com. And while he's getting me the comments, I don't know who sent this to me. They did not have a name on the package. But if that was you, thank you so much.
It was so cute.
It's so stinking cute. Thank you, thank you.
And I want to thank B too for your birthday card that you sent me. Thank you so much for that. Just want to let you know I got it and everything. So.
All right. Do you have questions for me?
Do you want me to send this to you, or are you going to read it off here?
You can send it to me. Might be easier.
I was wondering why you were. Okay. Oh, please.
Okay. So, there we go.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay.
All right, here we go. Are we ready for this? We can do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alicia, we ran out of oil last winter, even with 2 layers of warm clothing and lots of blankets and comforters. My fingers were frozen and tingling when I was in bed for the night. Yes, you never know when it's going to happen. You could run out of oil, you could run out of propane, whatever you're using to heat your house. That's why we say keep a little 2-man, 3-man tent on hand. And I would divide your family members up into groups of 2 or 3 and have them sleep in the tent in that situation, because then your body heat keeps you warm.
Yeah.
Denise, does your Walmart have everything pretty much locked up? Ours does, even shaving cream. No.
Whoa. I haven't heard that one.
Of course, I think if I remember right, you live in a pretty liberal state. Are you from California? So I could see why California would have to do that.
They're having problems with shoplifting and everything.
Kimberly says there was an old program, I think on PBS, where they took 4 or 5 family groups and had them live like they were in the original Settlers. I remember that show. I loved it. Where they had to build their own log cabin and have their own animals and do everything from scratch. I know, and they couldn't do anything.
And I just watched one recently along that same line, and the gal said the thing she missed most was running hot water. Yeah. She said, I never thought running hot water would be the thing
I would miss that the most.
Yeah.
The only thing I could say I would truly, truly miss is taking a bath.
Yeah. And
it's not for cleanliness, but just because when I'm doing so much during the day and my muscles hurt really bad from the fibromyalgia, that really helps. But I would miss that.
But they said also that I'd never thought of before, the men were supposed to supply their food by fishing. Well, they had just 3 days, 4 days worth of food to start out with, and it started raining. So the men couldn't go out on the fishing boats. So they ran out of food. Yeah. Now, what are you supposed to do? You know, they just had a few days. And so you've got to really think this through, because if you think, well, I'll just go out on a boat and go fishing or something, you don't know if the weather's going to be okay for you to supply. So all these things, a lot of things like what we're talking about.
Sharon says, do you believe they are manipulating our weather? No. But I think they're experimenting with it. They've been experimenting with this for years, guys, like cloud seeding and all that. This is nothing new. This is not, they act like this has just happened in the last year or whatever. This has been going on for, my goodness, 25 years they've been doing this. So do I think they're manipulating the weather? No. Do I think they're messing with trying to figure it out? Yes. They've been doing this for years. So,
well, and there are a lot of things that people are talking about, like the cows.
I'm doing a video on that. We're not going to talk about the cows.
Well, I will just say, I wouldn't jump right into a conspiracy if you have the opportunity, because a lot of things happen in life that just don't get talked about. And then under certain circumstances, people can talk about them and bring them to light. And it looks like something that just happened and has never happened before. So a lot of the things that people are worried about are likely to be just things that happen.
So Cheryl says the military started cloud seeding in the 50s and 60s. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I knew about it in the last 25 years. So yeah, they've been doing it for what, 60,
yeah, in the
years?
70s when I drove back to Colorado, I remember hearing about this.
Okay, keep putting your questions in. Mike's going to pull them and we will get to them. Best ever, Barbara says, best ever high school lesson from the 10th grade. English teacher who would throw pop quizzes. She gave us 10 seconds to panic and then we had to sit down and write. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, you don't realize how much those types of things prepare you for when you're an adult for these types, situations.
At any time, day or night, once every month or 8 weeks or something, just turn on your smoke detectors and start screaming, fire, 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 and see what your kids do. But after you practice a few times, they'll know. Now mine just say dinner's ready, but
but Tara did do this with the kids, and I was staying with the kids one time and there was a tornado warning going off in Colorado, and BJ knew immediately. He ran out to the garage, got helmets for, I think there was 3 of the boys at that time there with me, and got helmets for all of them. And he trotted down, got us down into the basement, and we went under the stairwell, is where we were supposed to go. So he knew exactly, he was calm. He wasn't hysterical. He did just fine. And he was young then. He was really young.
Well, and Cheryl says my daughter wouldn't get up and the smoke detector went off. She slept right through. So that's something you need to work on.
Yeah.
Then you need a different smoke detector that says, wake up, get up, or
with
something.
Your voice.
Or,
they found that the kids will wake up to mom's voice better than just an alarm going off.
Hello, out of Goshen prepping. I'm sorry. Hello. I was just looking at you guys yesterday. Shiloh, make it a family game or challenge. Assign the older kids with family responsibilities and younger ones to grab as they can. Yes, that's very good. Julie, what basic paperwork should you have ready to go? Insurance papers, driver's licenses, birth certificates, credit cards,
marriage certificates.
Always have copies of your credit cards.
Credit cards, names and numbers of family members or places where you may have to go to stay, and that
house deed if you paid off your house. I have no idea what this name is, but it says, love your practical prepping. Thanks. We as humans have gotten soft, lazy. We trust in riches and not the savior of the world. Amen. You're right. South Loop River Hempstead. On the wagon train, they just buried you right there. I know. And we're in Wyoming.
Yeah.
Who would know? I was gone.
You can get by with a lot of stuff in Wyoming, can't you?
Send me more questions. Do you think anyone would even notice if I disappeared?
I might notice.
I don't know.
Would I? Oh, you can't disappear and leave me with Mike and the boys and everybody.
Well, see, it's payback for something. I'm sure.
It is?
Yes.
Thanks.
All right. Did you send me the next questions?
Yeah, no. Because I was in the middle of something else.
Well, you guys stay on top of it. We got to go. We got to go.
So it's worth emailing 3 questions?
We had a tornado warning. We had a tornado warning. My kid says, should we clean the basement? Was my excuse not to scare them and get them downstairs. They caught on. Oh, okay. So what happened was she had a tornado warning. She told her kids that they need to go into the basement and clean to not scare their kids. Yes, okay, so let me address that. Don't be scared. I know moms who sit there and just freak out. Stop it.
Your kids will react the way you react.
You
if
are
you
the
stay
adult.
calm, they'll stay calm.
These
Mm-hmm.
these mothers that lose it like that in an emergency really tick me off. I just want to slap them upside the head and say, get together, woman. You are in charge of those kids. You need to act like a grown-up and stop flipping out and scaring your kids.
I had an experience like this one time. A gal, I didn't know her very well, but she was a neighbor and didn't have a basement. And the tornado sirens came off, and she went off, and she said, "Can I come and stay with you?" Well, she in your basement, and she ended up bringing her 2 daughters and herself, and then like her 4-year-old grandson, and my granddaughter was with me. And we were concerned because my son and daughter-in-law and grandson were on the other side of town from us, right where the tornado was going, and we lost communications. And so we were watching on the map, trying to get information. This woman was hysterical. She was screaming the whole time, and her little grandson, he was calmer than what she was, but everybody was uncomfortable. And we're trying to take care of the situation, and her just going on and on and on did not help matters at all. So you have got to get over that type of reaction to things, and you can't get stressed and holler about
it. So Jennifer Weber says, so running back and forth screaming during an emergency, is it okay? No,
Jennifer,
you know better than that. No, but
you,
that's why in the movies you see him slapping these women.
Yeah, you almost have. I thought I was gonna. I kept thinking, should I slap her or what? Because she was really in bad shape, and you just can't do that. We would have come through it much better if it just hadn't been for her and her hysteria.
Tracy says, who would tell us to get it together, people? Okay, next set of questions. Prepping suggestions for one. It's the same thing as you do for a family, except just get what you need. Yeah.
You just get the stuff you need for you and what you're going to have.
If you
get the important papers, you get the food you need. You get
a year's worth of food. How many sticks of butter do you use? How many cans of whatever would you eat in a week? And here's another question I'm going to answer real quick. I got an email for this question, and the lady said, so I think I'm just hoarding now. She said, I have all this food and we don't cook at home. She said, don't judge me. Hey, I don't care if you eat out. If all your stuff is paid off,
go for it.
That's totally fine. Mm-hmm. I would do it. If we had all the money in the world, I would probably eat out every night.
Yeah.
But she said, I just have all this canned food. And since we don't cook at home, what am I supposed to do with it? Well, then it's just your security blanket, basically. And you're just going to have to see it that $500 or $1,000 or $2,000 or however
much you have. Like a savings account.
An insurance policy, savings account. You're just going to have to look at it that way is how you're going to have to do it.
Mm-hmm. Prepping too much, you mean? Is that what you were saying?
No. Not using what she has.
Let's see. Becca, how do we pray for a local community? I've lost all family and friends. I guess I could ride solo, but would love to just have one. Oh, but I would love to have just one like-minded person in my life. Just ask for that. Just pray and ask for that.
We don't ask God for these simple things sometimes. And if you sincerely ask him, he's going to bring somebody your way. I've needed encouragement in the past. And I tell you, within a few hours, at the very least, the next day, I've had somebody say something that was encouraging, and I just prayed for it. That's all I did, and it happens.
Mm-hmm. The Victorian Edge. Tara, have you all bought anything new that was stale but in date? I bought pecan sandies last week. They were in date and unopened and had meal bugs in the package. I would take them back to the store.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah,
it happens.
It does.
Yeah. Jeannie, I think. Do y'all have any suggestions for generators or alternate power? No, because we don't have any. So we have tried installing wood stoves.
We need to ask our son.
And we have had a quote between $5,000 and $10,000 to install a wood stove that was $250. So we don't have a generator. We don't have solar power, anything like that. Now our son does live off grid in an RV with 100% solar power. That's all he does. Well, and propane. And he does propane a little bit.
He doesn't use it, but he has it in case.
Yeah, he uses propane heater in the winter a little bit, but mostly it's a solar generator. Or I mean, it's a solar system. But he is really smart, and he built the whole system himself. And so I can't really give you any suggestions. I guess I need to just buy some solar generators or buy some generators and just test it out. But here's my thinking on that. With regular generators, you're going to have fuel to run them. And with solar generators, you're going to have sun to run them. Well, what if you have a blizzard for 2 weeks? Very possible. What if a volcano goes off and the ash goes all over the place like Mount St. Helens did? What are you going to do?
So that you can't see the sun.
You won't have sun. Yeah. And so I think it's okay if you have the money and you want to buy those things. I'm not like against them, but I don't have any faith in them either. Mm-hmm. You know, it's one of those things that if you have the money to stock up, go ahead.
Because you have to realize gas may not be available. The pumps may not be working and things like that. So even if you have some stockpiled, it won't be enough you won't be able to get enough for a long, long time. So you have to have some kind of a backup for a generator. I prefer wood burning stove. If we could get one put in, we're having trouble getting one put in because we do have access to wood where we're at. Mm-hmm. Now that may not work for you, but we do have access for wood. So you need to kind of figure out what you work with.
Well, and we have a plan. So like we have a really nice wood stove. Okay, if we can't get it installed in the house, we can go to the shop and we can put it through a window. We can put the pipe through one of our windows and we can heat the shop and we can live in there if we need to.
Yeah.
So it's so
not
we
like
have
we
an
don't
alternate
have
plan, but
Linda, is that not a fireplace behind you? It is, but it's a gas fireplace.
Yeah.
And the thing about the gas fireplace is in most circumstances where we would lose power, the gas fireplace would still work. Mm-hmm. But if we had a complete no power catastrophically where the gas company's equipment also went down, which is very unusual. I don't think it's ever happened in my life, but it could happen if there was a major catastrophe. Mm-hmm. And so in that case, the gas one wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Blue-eyed mama for water storage, outside rain catch. Does it matter if barrel is a big white tote, black storage, or blue 55-gallon? It does not matter. Just get your water in there.
In Kansas, that's what I use. I just got water
now,
in there.
I did.
Oh, she did done good.
I did come across a deal at a garage sale. This lady was selling rain barrels, and I got 60 of them for $30 each. Already has a spigot.
60 of them?
Or
6.
No, I got 6 of them. Did I say 60? Uh-huh. Oh, I'm sorry. 6 of them for $30 each. And they already have the spigots and the holes all drilled. They're really brand new.
Brand new.
And so we haven't got them set up yet, but that is on our to-do list to go ahead and get set up. But here's the thing. Okay, let's say you can't get set up right now. At least just get them filled with water and sitting so that if you need the water, you have them. And that's what the boys and I are going to be doing, and they don't know it, on Friday. We're going to be setting them up, and I'm just going to fill them up with the hose for the moment. Mm-hmm. So I'll have the water. But then when we go to hook them up to the gutters, I can just empty them and redo it.
But do the totes. I did the totes for a long time.
Yeah, trash
and
cans.
Actually, if you have smaller totes, even several that you can stack up or something, to me, that's a good thing, because a lot of people in Texas, when they had that ice storm, they had tons of rain barrels of water, but the rain barrels of water froze solid and they couldn't move them, and they couldn't, it was hard to use it for water then. Where if you have some smaller totes, you can just carry them in to the closest part where it could be, you can heat it up or warm it up or whatever to start using it. So think these things through. If you're a single lady by yourself, smaller totes might work better than a huge rain barrel that you can't move. Yeah. If you have to take it in to thaw it out or something.
Well, and like I got 2 5-gallon water containers at a garage sale for $2 the other day. And I took them outside and washed them out and filled them up and I couldn't move them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this is a problem.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to store those in the garage. And then I have other water in the basement so that if we need that water and it's frozen, it can be defrosting while we're using the other water. But at least we have it. So make sure you can actually use your preps.
Yeah, like I found that out with the 5-gallon gas can. I couldn't move it. Let alone lift it to pour it into the car or anything. So I now have 2.5-gallon gas cans that I use. And so make sure you think each step through and that you can carry the stuff and deal with it. Or what happens if this water freezes? Make sure, like I keep bottles of water out in the garage. Well, you can't fill them up to the top in case they freeze out there because they'll burst. So think all this stuff through.
All right. If you guys have a question, put question and then write in there and Mike will send it to me. Josephine, is God help those who help themselves in the Bible? What does it mean in the Bible? No, that is not in the Bible. That's why God is there to help you because he knows you can't help yourself. But the Bible does say that you are to work and that you're to be responsible with your money. And so even though it's not God helps those who helps themselves, he does expect you to do your part. And he's not just going to help somebody who just decides to sit on the couch and not do anything all day long.
He gives us
Well, he
abilities.
might. It's up to him, but he's not. There's no promise that he will.
He gives us all abilities: mind, physical bodies, and the ability to work and stuff. So he expects us to use that part that he's given us to use. And so once you use that to your full capability, anything else that you can't do, then God will come in and help you with, whatever's left. So
okay, so Rob from Little House Off Grid is on here. Do you remember what you said yesterday in the bathroom when we were coming up with titles for the show?
I forgot what it was. I kind of know the general direction. Well, yeah, no.
So Rob, we love you. You give me title ideas all the time. And so we were talking yesterday, and somehow, how did his name come up? I don't know. Yeah, maybe I was going to go look and see.
Just because we love you, man.
I guess. I don't know. So anyway, so I would say, yeah, Rob did this or Rob did that. So Mike said,
well, she said some title idea, and I said, I think we should add to it while living on grid in a big house.
While living in a big house on grid. I thought that was pretty funny. So I was going to message you that and I hadn't told you yet. Okay, next questions.
Okay, let's see. Oh, and by the way, on the God helps those who help themselves thing, besides the fact that it is not in the Bible, God does tell us to be prepared, to be wise, but he also, in a lot of ways, says to ask him for things. So when you can't do something, he expects to help you. Yes,
because he talks in Proverbs about the ant. You should be like the ant that works hard and prepares for the winter months and prepares their nest and everything. And so he does tell us to be like that.
But the Bible also says pray without ceasing, and there's a whole lot of talk. God wants to bless you, and it doesn't mean that everything you ask for you're going to get. It's not like the whole.
It's not like a genie.
He's not like a genie, but he likes for you to talk to him and ask him, and he likes to bless you and take care of you. But if you're being stupid and not using what he's given you, or not using the direction he's trying to send you, there's not a promise that he's going to, come in and swoop in and save you from your stupid decisions.
Yeah. So Rob,
he might, though. Sometimes he does that.
Yeah. So Rob from Little House Off Grid says to check your propane costs. It may be cheaper to run a propane generator than gas now. I have a dual fuel generator and the propane is cheaper per 30 hours of runtime. That's good to know. I didn't know that. I didn't know you could get both. Well, I mean, I knew you could get like propane or gas. I didn't know you could get them both together. So that's really good to know. And Linda says, what are you adding to your barrels of water? Probably nothing except for maybe a little bit of bleach, but I'll probably just like every month or two go in. But I have water filters. So even if it grows something, I have a water filter. I'm not worried about it.
And that type of water too, I've got a lot of drinking water saved up and the filters. So that type of water would be used for
flushing the toilet, washing dishes, stuff like that. Amy, we had a neighbor tree land on our roof. I put a hole in it during the storm. In 5 minutes, we had it covered and on the phone with the insurance company.
Very good.
That happened to my brother. Not a tree, but they had hailstones literally go through his whole house.
Grapefruits.
Yeah.
It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
So when Tara says she knows about hail and she's been in hail before in Kansas, our hail is pretty good size.
Wait, did you say hail?
Believe me, I was in hail in Kansas.
Did you say hail or hail? I wasn't sure which.
Kelly, my friends don't see a need to prep. How do I encourage them to take it seriously? You can't really. No. I mean, if they ask you about what you're doing or whatever, that's fine. But I would not beat a dead horse if they're not going to listen. Yeah. Shelby, the time to panic is not during an emergency. If you have a breakdown, do it after the crisis is over. Yes, exactly. Kimberly Nash, good thing to do is to spend the weekend with no power. You'll find out very quickly, as I did with no power. Went out where the holes are in your prepping and what things you may need and to live from your prep. So here's something funny on that. So today, 3 years ago, we left to go on our Europe trip. But you know what was one of the hardest things on our trip? Was when we got to Ireland and we had no internet for, was it a week or 10 days or something? And we were about bored out of our minds. Mm-hmm. We were. I mean, I don't know how many games of solitaire a person can play, but thankfully I had downloaded some books onto my phone. But we weren't home, so we couldn't really go outside and do stuff very well because it was raining a lot. And we didn't have any games. We didn't have any entertainment of any kind. And so I think people are going to be shocked at if the fecal matter hits the oscillation unit, how bored they're going to be.
Because you won't have your phone with the game.
Yeah, that's why I recommend that you learn a skill of some sort, like knitting, sewing, something that you can just sit and do with your hands that won't take a lot of light necessarily, that type of thing, just to keep you, and it calms you down. Especially ladies, when you do this hand sewing and stuff, it keeps you calm, and you can take it with you. It's usually small. Find something like that. You can do different types of crafts and things too.
Shannon says, I'll bring my fireproof box of candy.
Oh, for sure.
And then Jennifer says, it's always a good time to panic. Follow me for more advice.
That's good.
Oh, we love you, Jennifer.
I know.
Okay. Tanya, do you have a bug out bag? Yes, I do. Because in our town in Colorado, there was a chemical plant, and our town did have to evacuate. And while we were living in Colorado, there were major floods that wiped out one town, Estes Park, really famous town. We used to live there. And we had friends who had to be evacuated out of helicopters because they got trapped in their house. And so we have seen time after time after time when people have had to evacuate. Mm-hmm. My big tip for the bug out bag is to make sure everybody in the family has the same color of shirt, red if preferable, or neon green or yellow, something that's not common. Don't all go wearing black. Do something that stands out so that if your family is separated and you lose a kid, you can tell people he's wearing a red t-shirt. That at least helps identify a little bit, more. Or like my brother had his whole family in Superman shirts because my brother's mentally ill. But he had Superman shirts for all of them so he could say when we were at, the fireworks or whatever.
Well, one time too, I think their daughter wandered off.
So did my son,
Yeah. And so they saw my son in his Superman shirt and his wife, my daughter-in-law, and so they knew immediately that that's where that child was supposed to go to, that my granddaughter should go to them, And so that's really good. And to have a marker to mark their address, telephone number, and another family member in case, away from the flood area or whatever is happening.
Veronica says, we bought a propane stove. We have a 100-gallon propane tank, and we love it. Yes, at our house in Andover, Kansas, that just got blown away again. We had propane, and it was nice. I mean, it was hard because you got to keep your propane filled, and now, you know, propane may or may not be cheaper depending on how the wind's going to blow. So, Mandy, coming in here late, but wanted to know how your plants are, because it broke my heart. I didn't tell you guys how my plants are, did I? I didn't even tell them what happened. Okay.
People were asking, and I was like, I'm afraid to ask.
So I think about 95% of my plants made it. It's only been 2 days, so I'm not sure yet. But I think the majority of them are going to come out of it. So if I can keep the deer and the rabbits and the raccoons out and the bugs away.
And her mother, you should have heard her. I came over this before the live stream, and I had a little plant, and I said, something's wrong with this. And I was thinking it might have bugs or something. And she looked at it, she said, that thing's got bugs, get it out of the house. And she said, now run down the street. She was having you run down the street, and I'll come bring the bug stuff behind you. And she said, keep going, keep going. And I'm running down the street with this plant to get as far away from her plants so I wouldn't infect her plants.
But yeah, I mean, you never know what's going to happen. And honestly, everyone says, oh, this is a freak hailstorm. It's not a freak hailstorm. I mean, last year, when the first year we moved here, we came in July, and we probably had 4 hailstones between July and October. So it's not a freak thing here. It's just a part of life. And that's why Wyoming is the least populated state in the country. So
next to Kansas.
Oh. Strawberry Parfait, as an RN in Nebraska, we practice for tornadoes in the hospital and how to protect the patients.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to practice this stuff.
And I was going to mention too, this is a little bit off, but for tornadoes and things, when you asked about bug out bags, I keep a bug out bag for just regular emergency type things, but I had a special tornado bug out bag in my basement that had crowbar. Then I had heavy duty like work boot type things. I had a flashlight that you put across around your head, your headlamp, because if you have to crawl out, you know, if the tornado hits, then you've got a crowbar to dig your way out, and good sturdy boots for the nails and things. And you have your hands free with that flashlight. And those flashlights are really great, because for anything, if you're having to carry a baby or a pet and bags and stuff, and then to have a flashlight in your hand, you could drop that other irregular flashlight. So if you have all the head flashlights for your family, those are even better, you know.
Yeah. And Kelly is like the smartest person on the earth, because she says have physical books like cookbooks so that you can cook if there's no internet. Guys, we have graham crackers, we have taco seasoning, how to make tortillas, how to make pancakes, all of the basic
crackers, lots of things.
All the basic things.
What to use for substitutions, you know. We have toiletries in there.
All those things. And then also, if you need a Bible, livingonadime.com, they are free. So we have Bibles if you guys need a Bible. Holly, midwifery might be something to learn. I've had 4 kids. I think I'm there. I'm just going to say drugs.
But she's right.
Yeah, but are you going to want to help somebody?
I was going to say drugs and a baseball bat are my
She's really right. You need to get some of these basic first aid skills and things like that. Basic carpentry and mechanical skills. Try to get the different members of your family to learn different things that they're, you know, more gifted in. And midwifery is a really good thing, because you can, if you need to barter for food or clothing or whatever later on, at some point, if it's a real emergency, that's a great skill to have that you can barter for.
And last question or comment is, maybe that was God's prompting that I learned to crochet and knit again. My concern is where I get more yarn and things go to heck and hanky. Oh, that's a new one. I like that. I like that. You know, I would just stock up on what you can now and go to yard sales, thrift stores, and just get some cheap stuff.
And if it does get to the point, you can always find old scrappy sweaters or something and pull the yarn apart and things like that.
Susie, always look for quilts, Afghans, anything 100% wool at yard sales.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about.
Wool is not only for warmth, but if you have a fire and you put a wool blanket on it, it'll put fires out for you.
Yep. Shiloh says, Tara, if you're growing any peppermint, pick, smash, and scatter it around your garden. Vermin don't like it. Oh, yeah. That's a good idea. Did the truck get damaged? We didn't actually look to see if the truck got hail damage or not. Don't think so. Okay.
It's well,
Save
it needs a little bit of mostly repaint and refinishing work, but as far as the metal itself didn't get damaged.
Yeah.
So, but it was already.
Anne Marie, have you ever thought of trying hydroponics? You guys have that nice space in your garage. Well, that nice space in our garage is about to be full of books.
It's
So it would not be a good idea for my hydroponics to go south with thousands of books in the garage. So yes, if I didn't have that, I probably would. I've always wanted to do hydroponics, but I haven't ever taken up that form of gardening yet. Glinda. Oh dear. Oh, Glinda. Okay. We're going to be here till midnight. What advice would you give on how to deal with dysfunctional, toxic family members? Does God want you to continue to try to mend the relationship, or should you cut ties?
Tara and Mike are experts at this.
Well, I would say I would pray about it first, because God's will in each situation might be different. But I think that we're instructed to. The short answer is no, but the longer answer is we are instructed to let the world see our gentleness and to reach out to people and tell them about Christ.
But we're not to be a punching bag.
But at the same time, if the situation you're describing is like I think it is, if it's a chronic situation that keeps going and going and never changes, there is a point where I think it's wise to walk away from it. But I would say it would be good to pray about your specific situation and see what's going on there. For many, many, many years, I felt like God was leading me to reach out to family that I have that was like that, and it didn't really turn into anything positive ever. And eventually, I think it was the leading of God, but eventually I was completely separated from them, and I think that's a good thing. So I would say in the situation that God does not command you to stay with somebody,
especially in an abusive
if they're
situation.
abusing you or whatever,
emotionally or physically.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So I would say it's definitely a thing you need to pray about, probably, because in some circumstances he does want us to have an influence on people, and if it's possible to help them, but there are a lot of people that just don't want to be. They want to be what they are, and they want to treat you the way they're treating you. And at that point, it's not wrong to separate yourself from that.
Yeah. Pamela says
it is wrong to go gossip about them and to call everybody and get them to advocate against them and all that. It is not wrong to say, I'm just not going to be part of this, and I hope that you can see this in a different light, or whatever you want to say to them, or not say anything to them, but just then just pray for them.
Pamela says, give the gospel warn, but don't cast your pearls before swine. Yes.
Yeah.
And Crazy Cat Lady says, forgiving does not mean you have to have a relationship with them.
I was just going to say, that's where the gentleness and the love comes in, that you can walk away, but you can do it in a loving manner with forgiveness and not being mean, hateful. Like, I think it was you said gossiping about, or Mike said, gossiping. That's where the love and the gentleness comes in. It's the way you leave. You don't leave with hate and anger and all that in your heart, but you can leave.
Yeah, I think as Christians, it's easy to feel guilty because you can't change them. But the reality is you can't change them. Only God can change them.
Well, and you feel guilty too because you think you're supposed to be so loving towards everybody, but
we're not told to be loving towards everybody,
and that's why they feel guilty.
Yeah.
So you don't.
And now, if they're slightly annoying, but they're not really doing anything super, super bad, like you just don't like the way that your mom blows kisses at you all the time when you're 30 years old, then I would be. That's not a serious thing. But if it's serious toxic things and negativity and constantly dragging you into things, probably God doesn't command you to stay with that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I would definitely pray about it in your own situation, though.
And so sometimes it's more loving to leave them, because they have to. Sometimes it'll help them face up to what they are or what's going on. Sometimes it doesn't. You have to be prepared for it to go either way.
Well, and the reason I'm being a little hesitant is that it's not necessarily being toxic if they just disagree with you about stuff. In your situation, it's probably I think I understand the way your situation is, but some people would say, well, my parents don't agree with me, or my family doesn't agree with me, and I just get tired of hearing them say they don't agree with me. And it might be different in that circumstance. So that's why I'm kind of a little hesitant. I just don't know the situation individually. But in general, I would say God does not shackle you to a situation where you're being tormented or abused or mistreated and commanding you to stay there.
No. Sarah, do you know how to hunt?
Do I know how to hunt? I have not hunted.
You do know, he knows how to shoot a gun. So if we needed to hunt, we could open the front door and shoot Bambi.
Bambi that's out in the front
Splat
yard.
it all against the garage wall.
Well, I know how to
shoot. And I have a book on butchering, so we could probably figure out how to butcher it.
Accurate, and about almost everyone in our town hunts. So probably
I'll be trading them soap and
it would be more likely that we would do other things than trade, but I would certainly do it if we had to. And it's not something that I really just want to do for recreation. But
we've got a pond for fishing in the backyard. I mean, in the
I do know how to fish, and I've taken the kids fishing, the older kids when they were younger. I don't really enjoy it very much, so I would probably again. I would do it if it was necessary, and we have shown that we can do it, but it's not something that I would desire.
Yeah. Somebody, I think it was Jane, Oh, yeah, Jane. She says, I purchased your planner. How do I start using it? Is there a video? Yes, here's my planner. If you go to the planner sales page, Michael put the link on it, 366. But right here in the front, I tell you how to use it and how it's set up for you to use, okay? So I explain all of that in the front, how to use it. And then in the video, we also show how to use the planner in there.
What did you say was doing?
And the planner, can you put the link for the planner directly in there for them real quick?
Oh, the direct.
Barbara says our next book is going to be Dining on a Deer. You better believe it if they don't stay on my garden.
Actually, somebody else said, David, better to have peace than a constant drip. So that's true. If it's family that's constantly digging at you and being passive aggressive in that kind of way, that's also important to recognize that's not okay for them to do that.
And there's different levels too.
Yeah.
Some cases where the real abuse is happening, you have to totally cut all ties. But then there's other times, if you can endure it, you can go see them once in a while, maybe a phone call once in a while, but don't have continual close fellowship all the time with them. You have to just take each situation and, figure out which fits your situation the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. Christina says, thank you for the Bible you sent me. You're welcome. Right there, we have free Bibles. If you guys do not have a Bible, go to livingonadime.com, click on the shop, click on free Bible, and we are happy to send you one. We don't harass you afterwards. We just send it to you and pray that God will show you the truth.
That's one thing when you're reading the Bible, a lot of people say they have trouble understanding. Every time you go to read it, you just pray and say, can you show me what you want me to see in here? Help me to understand. God loves us. He's not going to withhold things and be mean by not letting you see what's in there. If you sincerely ask, he will help you, understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Rob from Little House Off Grid, our bud, says, don't rely on hunting because that is what everyone will be doing and will limit the amount that it will be available to hunt. My poor area hunts everything to dangerous levels. Yeah, I mean, honestly, even though I'm sure we could hunt, so would the entire town. And even fishing, we have our ponds out here. But that's where also you've got to be on the ball. If you think something's going to happen, or actually I'm going to do a video on this, but the very second something happens, You kick it into gear and
Yeah.
get your action going.
Yeah.
Get out there and get as many fish as you can. Get out there and get as many deer shot and put up as you can. It's going to be every man for himself. If it's going to be every man for himself, you are responsible for taking care of you and your family, and you need to get out there and get going. And if it means going to the grocery store and wiping the shelves of something, I'd do it. I mean, if it means it's going to keep your family from living or dying, you have to get on the ball and get going and doing it. So, Bigfoot says you're a wise woman.
Thank you.
Tara, a book. Lindsay says, Tara, a book on gardening would be great. Thank you. I probably won't though, but thank you. Music Mad is the verbal abuse and control that gets me. So when I stepped away and still carried on. Yes, it does. We totally know about that. So
man, and verbal abuse is just as bad, and psychological abuse is just as bad, and passive aggressive manipulation is just as bad. And those things. The interesting thing is the people that probably need to make that space and separate are the ones that are least likely to do it because you're afraid that you're going to be doing the wrong thing.
Well, it's almost like somebody that's been physically beaten down. They can't move. And I mean, that happens emotionally too. You can't get yourself to move.
Yeah, if it's a chronic, consistent, long time thing and you're afraid, especially if you're if you're very afraid of things all the time, you're anxious and you're constantly on guard that somebody's going to do something and you're never sure how to read people because they change directions all the time.
That's abuse.
Probably the situation that you have been in has probably conditioned you in an abusive way to that. And that's where I would, when I say you probably should, and when you're afraid to, those are the situations where I think that person is definitely abusing you in a relationship.
Anne-Marie, what do I think about the 10,000 dead cattle? I'm going to do a video on that. I think I'm going to have to start doing daily videos because, my goodness, the stuff that's happening is just crazy. I agree with Tara. When I feel something is not right, then I prepare and take action. Yeah.
Yes.
When that thing going around hit, I was the first one at the grocery store, and I got $1,000 worth of groceries. We happened to have the money, but my stockpile had gone down because we were planning on moving. And so I had let my stockpile go down. I'm like, you know what? I'm getting to the grocery store and I'm stocking up. And I got 2 full heaping, was it 2.5 grocery carts of stuff. And we got stocked back up real quick. So, and I lost a lot of viewers on that video. People were really mad at me for going to the grocery store that time. But I'm like, no, my family's not going to be at risk if we're locked in the house for months on end.
Well, it's interesting too that, of course, Tara had wanted to get them for a long time, but probably a month or so before everybody got all freaked out about toilet paper, Tara said, I think people are going to freak out about toilet paper. Maybe I should get a couple of bidets. She'd been telling me she wanted to get a bidet for years, and I was thinking, I don't know. I was in Paris one time, and that thing was terrifying looking. But after we got them, then everything hit the fan, and we were like, wow, okay, maybe this is a good idea.
Yeah.
So it is helpful to think ahead on those things. And
Jack says, I work with a lot of people who are crazy and mean. That's my eyeballs. I'm so skinny, I keep rolling them and walking away. Oh, he's rolling his eye. Okay, yeah. Advice on when one spouse doesn't believe on stocking up is necessary and wanting to do so is worrying and not trusting God. Well, so first of all, have them read Joseph in the Bible and have them read about the ant. But secondly,
it's in Proverbs, right?
Yeah, the ant in Proverbs stores up and isn't like a sluggard. I need to just memorize where it's at. But the other thing is you can pray about it. And then I would just start bringing a few things in now and then. I mean, if they're just totally against you, just totally stocking up of everything, buy just a couple of cans here and there and just get a little extra. I mean, I would say just get as much as you can. But, that is, if God has warned you that inflation is coming or there may be shortages, that's warning.
That's God.
Then you're being a fool for not stocking up if you have the money and the means and the space to do so. We're not talking about building a bunker with 7 years of food. We're talking 3 months and then 6 months and then maybe a year if you have the space. But it's just foolish to not do that.
And one thing too, different people have different gifts. And I'm finding out with all the stuff that's happening, some people have the gift of discernment. And so as far as a couple goes, sometimes one person in the couple has more discernment than the other. And as a couple, you need to have a relationship such that you honor the other person's gift a little bit and be willing, in a reasonable level, to go along with that person. And if you're feeling like you need to do this, not in panic, not in fear, because God doesn't warn us and causes us to build panic and fear, but he just gives this gentle nudging that maybe you need to be doing this. That's your discernment kicking in. And, hopefully your spouse will take and honor that in a way.
Actually, it's funny because there are a couple of times, 2 or 3 times in our marriage where Tara's come and said, I'm really concerned about this. And I'm thinking, and I was just thinking about doing this. But she just brought it to me in a way where I was thinking, okay, I don't really quite understand what the concern is, but okay. And I think that's what Jill's talking about.
Well, you have life insurance, you have car insurance, you have house insurance.
And the thing with the prepping that I was thinking is, at first I was thinking, well, are we not trusting God if we do that? And I was thinking, well, but God told others to do that. And then I got to thinking, well, if she's gathering a certain amount of reasonable stuff, I mean, if the whole house was stacked with pallets of things and you just couldn't walk around anywhere, I'd be really concerned. But what I was realizing, well, if we had we don't have this much, but if we had a year or two worth of stuff, but it was stuff that lasted years, then we could use it and then keep replenishing it from the other end, and it wouldn't be like we were doing it for nothing. It's not like it's not like saying Dad needs a motorcycle, he's going to spend $50,000 on a motorcycle. It's like, it's stuff that she was buying that we're going to use it anyway.
Yeah. You're just pre-buying.
And so kind of what I realized, then I started thinking it was pretty brilliant, is I started to realize, wow, so she's buying these things that when we need them, we don't actually have to really run to the store. We just use a little bit of it out of there. And then when we go to the store, we buy the amount to restock that and maybe a little more if we're building the stockpile. And so I realized, well, this is just kind of flexing what we have. And then when there were deals, when something was really expensive, we could not get it for a while. And then when there's the deal, Tara would get a bunch of it. And I just started seeing that was, So I think it helped for her asking me, this is kind of something I'm really concerned about kind of way. And then me getting to see, okay, how's this working out? That I kind of bought in more.
Anne says Proverbs 6:6 is the ant video.
Oh, good.
Go to the way, ant thou sluggers. Consider her ways and be wise.
Yeah, and another example in the Bible too is I think it was Elijah. Mm-hmm. Elijah went to the widow and had her collect. He said, "Go out and get all the pots from your neighbors," and they got filled with the oil, with a little bit of oil that she had. She kept pouring. And he told her to go out and collect and bring all that in. And I don't think a lot of people realize that when he had her do that, that was enough oil and flour and all that type of stuff to last them through, I think it was 3 years famine or something like that. And so it wasn't just for that day or that week that he had to go gather all those pots and they were filled with oil. It was for a few years. So there's several examples in the Bible of stories where God warned the people ahead of time. There's going to be a time of famine. So you need to do this and prepare. And so that's a lot of times why some people are feeling that there's a need here.
Kimmy from Susan Her Apron says,
Hi, Kimmy.
There's a difference between hoarding to have it versus having a food storage that you are using. Yes, I just have a pantry that I'm always using.
Yeah, we just keep using out of it.
That's what I was saying, but Kimmy could say it in one sentence, and it took me.
I know.
3 paragraphs.
Story of my life.
Denise, I don't know if Denise would say, "What's the 7-year stock up about?" Tara's not saying you should stockpile 7 years.
I'm not saying you should stockpile 7 years. I'm saying.
Well, of course she says LOL, so she might have.
Yeah.
She says I barely have 8 months. Yeah, in that case, God specifically told Pharaoh and then Joseph that this was going to happen, to prepare for 7 years worth.
Kimmy says that's why she loves you.
I'm very specific.
I'll ask him a yes or no question, and I'll get a 10-minute dissertation about it. I'm like, it was a yes or no. Do you want a green shirt? Yes or no? Well,
poor Mike. We love you, Michael.
Okay, no one's ever called a squirrel a hoarder. That's true, Blue Rose.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, let's see. Somebody asked how to get the free Bible. Okay, livingonadime.com. It's a New Living Translation. It is large print. It's totally free if you want one. Just go to livingonadime.com, click on the shop, click on free Bible. Then after you go through the whole checkout, type in free Bible for the coupon code.
And there's a spot that says discount code or coupon code or something.
Discount or coupon code. I think it's discount code maybe. And just put that code in and it will say 0. If it charges you, you didn't put the code in the right spot. So just put it at the end where it goes.
So if it charges you, then don't put a payment method in.
Don't put a payment method in. Yeah. Carrie, I'm still using the stockpile I built when Tara had her food group and added an extra area per year. You go. Aw.
But
thanks.
you know, we hear from viewers like this all the time. And there's a calmness and a peace about them that we don't always hear in other people that aren't prepared at all. There's something different.
Yeah. Rob wants to know when you're building the tiny house.
Actually, I might be building one sooner than you might. Our son
is building one, actually.
He was asking us to maybe come help him with that. So that would be fun.
Let's see. I'm struggling with the decision. I paid off my loan today and haven't used it since the pandemic started. A big part. Oh, wait. I think we are having 2 conversations going here. So somebody said, should I pay off my student loans or my house first? She has enough to pay off her student loans, but not enough to pay off her whole house. I would
do the house.
I would do the house.
You can't. The thing is, if your house is paid off, you have a place to live. And
I don't think they can foreclose on I don't think they can put a lien on your house if you don't pay your student loans for some reason, can they? I don't know.
You might check that out. Google that and see if they can foreclose on your house if you don't pay your student loans. If it's no, then I would pay off my house. That's how I do that.
Yeah.
You might have to do a little research, but just Google some of that and see, what would work.
I would just keep going, but I would definitely get as much debt paid off as possible.
That's one thing we haven't mentioned and that I've been thinking about more than anything is to tell you guys is get out from under your debt and your mortgage. You've just got to do that. We can't say that enough. The time's getting short. You've got to kick it in gear and really, stop the spending. I was just horrified I read a thing on credit card debt going up right now. And one of them, like in the top 5 things why credit card debt is going up is people are spending because they're stressed. So they're doing the shopping and using their credit card to relieve their stress. That's not the way to relieve your stress. You've got to get that credit card paid off, and as much as possible and get the home mortgage because if you've got your mortgage paid off, you've got a house. And what happens too is people don't realize once you get that mortgage paid off, you can have $2,000 or $3,000 a month, just extra money. I mean, can you even imagine just having $2 or $3 cash to go buy what you need instead of charging it on a credit card? So try to get that mortgage paid off as fast as you possibly can.
Or build a tiny house.
Well, it's funny because Jennifer says house because I'm pretty sure you can still defer student debt if there's a money issue. The thing about student debt is it's the kind of thing that because it's so much in flux all the time, there are all these reasons why they might delay things or not require you to pay the full amount here or there or whatever. And the thing is, once you have your house paid off, you have a place to live and everything else is that the thing is I would still pay your student loans, but the house is more important.
Yeah.
Beth says to anyone out there thinking about getting our Dining on a Dime cookbooks, get it. Saved myself a trip to the store by looking in the substitution section yesterday. No wasted gas for me.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yes.
Yeah. We do have a substitution section.
What?
And
if the toxic person is your 10-year-old.
She's just joking.
Oh, okay.
She's saying
That
you
is
can't.
good.
She's saying
That's
you
good.
can't get rid of your 10-year-old.
Yes,
No,
that's
but in that case, the 10-year-old needs to know who's the boss.
Yeah. That's a good one, though. That's funny.
I didn't realize it was a joke.
Elaine, when the rapture happens, they're going. Oh no, that's let's see. When the rapture. Oh, Quilt T says, when the rapture happens, where will the unbelievers think we went, or will they witness the rapture and know? I don't. Nobody knows. It could be they could see it and know what happened. They could blame it on aliens. There could be a nuclear war or volcanoes or something like that that's going to wipe out a big portion of the population through natural disasters. Nobody knows for sure.
I don't know if you saw this. Karen asked, does the substitution page in the cookbook talk about how to make buttermilk from milk and vinegar and things like that?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. That's volume 1 and 2 combined. I think how to make butters in volume 2, I think. Did we put that in there? I don't know. But we do have the buttermilk out of milk, so that's easy.
Can I tell them how to make butter?
Yeah, all you do is just whip it until it turns
to make
to
butter. You just take whipped cream, heavy whipped cream,
Yeah.
and beat it until it turns to butter. That's all
Yeah.
you have to do. If you want it salted, then you add a little salt to it.
Yeah.
Carol here asks, does it hurt to keep extra flour and sugar in the freezer?
No.
Nope. Just
Although
do
I wouldn't do the sugar necessarily unless you have a real bad problem with bugs of some sort, because the sugar doesn't need to be, it'll keep for ever and ever and ever.
Doing a video on how to store flour and sugar actually too. Bird, what if you need your home as a tax write-off? Well, you don't, first of all, your interest rate, I don't even think they do this anymore, but your interest rate doesn't even come close to being.
You're paying more interest than you are getting a tax write-off, is what she's trying to say.
If they still do that. I don't think they even do that though anymore.
They changed the amount of the tax write-off, but I can't remember how much it is. But the thing is, if you have to have a mortgage, then the tax write-off is good to claim it. But I wouldn't. I wouldn't keep a mortgage to have a write-off.
Yeah. It used to be every dollar you spent in interest, you would get 28 cents back.
Because then you're spending $100 to save $30.
Yeah.
Basically. You're continuing to spend $100 to save $30. And it's unfortunate that you have to pay the extra $30, but you don't have to pay the $100. So pay it off.
People, for some reason, people for years have thought that they should do that. And you're actually spending more money by doing that.
Let's see. Tara, I've noticed a pattern. God truly loves and takes care of you. He enables you to have the desire to search for things. Then you find them. Water barrels, containers, shelves, furniture. That's true. Actually,
that is true.
I honestly was not looking for rain barrels, but I knew I wanted rain barrels, and I had actually been looking for trash cans because that's all we can afford right now because we're trying to get the house paid off. And so I was shocked when I found it. It was cheaper than buying a trash can.
Well, it's funny actually that you say that, Ms. Kathy, because she will tell me, oh, I really would like a something or other, and maybe sometimes it's for a couple of days and sometimes it's for a few months. She'll be kind of keeping her eye out for it, and all of a sudden, there it is.
But you see, that's where it works out when you have faith. You do what you can. It's like you do as much as you can, and God then honors that. Like a good child, he gives you a reward, and he will supply those needs for you. And even without you realizing it, sometimes, he will pop in and do without not realizing, but without asking. Sometimes he knows your need and he will supply it to you.
Girl with a Plan. We have an ice cream recipe right here in Dining on a Dime Volume 2, and we are making it tomorrow for Mom's birthday.
Oh.
It's even homemade.
Oh.
I mean, it's not just the banana stuff, the fake banana stuff that makes you
real life
think
homemade.
You're eating ice cream, but it's still diet food. Yeah.
I don't have to have diet food. Oh, thank goodness.
Chloe says, my concern with flour in your refrigerator freezer is that you are taking up valuable meat and vegetable space. Well, yeah. I mean, if you're needing to store meat and vegetables, I would not store your flour and sugar. No. You can put it in there for 24 hours to kill the stuff and then take it out and put it in,
Yeah, if you put it in to kill bugs and things like that, that would be fine. And then put it in probably some sealed something.
Or like me, I don't keep an excessive amount of meat in my freezer. I keep it in canned goods more than in the freezer. Yeah. And so I have room, to keep my flour in there.
Okay, I am not seeing your question, Sarah. I don't know why it's not coming.
We're seeing you asking if we saw your question.
So reply to your question in your message that you just did. Hit the reply and reply to yourself if you can. I don't know if you can.
Well, the last question I saw was about the hunting. And if that's the question, I don't hunt. I have fished. I know how to fish. I probably would figure out fast how to hunt. I know how to use the tools for hunting. I just don't actually do it. But we do have about 85% of the people in our town would probably trade us hunting for other things.
Yeah. How much should you pay on your mortgage? More should you pay on your mortgage each month? As much as you can.
As much as you can. I would just
start
chunk
dumping
it on there, because you'll be so surprised what happens. It starts snowballing really fast then. The more you can put on there, and it just goes faster and faster, and you get that thing paid off pretty quick.
Well, and after a while, you start to get
you get excited.
A little hit of like a dopamine hit from realizing, wow, this is great. I feel great.
We're almost there.
And the other thing I noticed, it probably depends on your interest rate, but there was one loan that we had, and I realized in my mind, every time we pay off $10,000, then the payment's $100. Well, the interest was $100 less that month. Every month after that, not just that month. And so that's a lot of money. But I started doing these head games with myself where I was like, "Ooh, what else can we do? How else can we get some money that we're not? How can we not spend it on something else, or how can we do something to put more on this?"
Or buy,
And because the payment eventually would start going down, because the interest is a big part of the payment. So if you're paying $600 a month on interest and you get it down to $300, your payment goes down.
You save so much on interest. I don't think people always realize how much they save on interest by paying off their mortgage. You know, they think of the payment itself, but they don't think that they're going to save a lot of money.
Yeah, and actually Empress Kimberly makes a good point. Make sure it's applied to principal. When you pay, you have to designate that it's additional principal.
To tell them it's principal.
I one time did that, and then the company just called it my next payment. Well, that doesn't do you any good. Then you still pay a whole bunch of interest. And so I called them and kind of haggled with them a lot. And they're like, "But don't you want to not have to make payments for 6 months?" I'm like, "No, I'm trying to not have to make payments ever again." So, but to do that, you have to pay it off first. And Kelly has to pay off mortgage before other loans. In general, I'd probably pay off all the other loans first.
I'd probably pay off the other loans first.
Except possibly on the student loan. That was one that somebody asked about. Student loan, I might pay off the mortgage first. I probably would pay off the mortgage first.
Linda says, if it's like in the days of Noah at the end, then shouldn't the sinners leave and the Christians remain? No, because we're going home. Christians are going home. So no. Well, and they're not referring to Noah staying. They're referring to the way people are acting before the flood came.
But in the days of Noah, God took Noah out.
I was going to
say,
we're going
to be taken
out off the earth.
He took him out.
We're going to be taken out. So
he took him out before he poured judgment on the world.
Deborah has our cookbook, Dining on a Dime, except she has the Not Just Beans version. She has our original.
You got Not Just Beans. Oh, wow.
Before we go, Susan asked, who is the bigger spender of us three? Well, I would say
not me. Definitely not me.
I would say it's probably me. But the funny thing about that is I'm not a big spender in any way. So, but I would say that Tara is. I'm the one that's usually telling Tara it's okay for you to spend a little more on plants or gnomes or something. And Jill runs the air conditioner at 53 degrees, even if she doesn't have to.
This year, I went crazy and bought plants, but normally I start them all from seed or do cuttings and I take my time or whatever. But this year, I had a whole bunch of plants in the ground for perennials and I sold them on Facebook. So I got like $250 selling starts of plants on Facebook. And so I took all that money and put it towards my plants and my soil and all of that stuff. And this is an interesting question I have never, ever heard about from Just Noah. Why are people using Joseph as a main reference for a reason to prep? He made slaves of the people who provided the grain. Well, because the point of that is that you have to prepare. And if you're not going to be prepared, you're going to be a slave. Just like 90% of Americans are slaves to their debt now. And they weren't really slaves like we think of slaves in the Bible. Yes, there were slaves like we think of slaves, like, you know, the American slaves that we had, but they're called slaves, but they were more like indentured servants where they were paying off or having to pay for something. And so that's why they were slaves, was because they were paying to keep themselves.
It would be kind of like credit card debt. If you couldn't pay your credit card debt, then you would work it off.
Well, and the Bible specifically says that what it meant for them to be slaves was that they then, from then on, had to pay Pharaoh a 30% tax on all their stuff, all the grain that they raised.
Yeah.
So that specifically said that. Naturally, me taking out how Noah was taken out by being, God put him on the ark in his family. The Bible says,
so he was taken away from the earth when it flooded.
The Bible says
God
closed the door with his own hand. So that's, I think that's physically what happened. He took him off the earth, but I think it's also, when it refers to the days of Noah, I think that there is some parallel between that and him taking us out as well. Before.
Little House Off Grid says, I know you don't agree, but canning meat makes you less dependent on the freezer. We have 300 days of meat. We pressure canned living off solar panels. We can't have a freezer. Yes. I mean, I think that's, in that situation, I would definitely do it then. Although I did figure, and at this point in time, it is $3 a pound for chicken for chicken breasts. And it is $1 a pound for thighs and all that. And it's $3.30, I think, for already pre-canned chicken a pound. So really right now, for the amount of work that it would take for you to can it, it's better if you can just do the chicken. But the trick is finding not dented cans of chicken that aren't dented, because we're having major issues with cans of chicken just being smashed to smithereens. So in that case, I would definitely.
And I don't like to have a freezer. Now Tara does, but I don't particularly like to have a whole bunch of meat in the freezer, because in years past I have lost freezerfuls, and if we lose the power, you know, and have the power out for a couple of weeks, you could lose all that meat. Now, I think Tara's wise in that she's got both. You know, you need to have different, you have to have your bases covered in different ways and not just stick to one way. And so you need a little bit of both if you can.
Just Noah says, respectfully, we are stretching the stories about Joseph and the slaves. No, we're not.
No.
You have to work. If you're going to work, if you're going to eat, you're going to work.
Yeah.
That's all Joseph was doing.
What he did was he went, and if they couldn't pay for the food, he told them they had to work for it. And that's just like nowadays. You know, if Mike doesn't go to work or Tara doesn't go to work or whatever, they're not going to have food. Why should somebody else pay for their food? So it really wasn't a slave situation. It was a matter of, and you know, another thing too, people don't realize, you take away a person's dignity and self-respect if you do nothing but give them stuff all the time and never allow them to work for what they need. A person that does their own work and accumulates their own stuff through working has a better respect for themselves and self-confidence. You know, I'm so sick of hearing everybody say, well, they just don't have any self-esteem. We need to build up their self-confidence. You're taking it away by not allowing people to work to gain their own things. And nobody talks about that. I never hear anybody talk about that. But when I had no money at all, people would give me stuff and I appreciated it, but I felt better about myself when somebody would say, can you do a little bit of ironing for me? And then they would give me something in place of that, because I felt like you just lose your respect and your dignity if you do it all the time and never work for your stuff.
Actually, something else I was going to say on that is it might be useful for you to go and whoever it was that said that, to go and read that chapter again in Genesis, because I was reading it just the other day, and the way the Bible portrays it is that Joseph was wise for doing that. And it didn't say Joseph was evil for taking advantage of these people. It said that Joseph was wise for planning ahead and for taking this action, and that when people came to him and they sold all their livestock, which was their livelihood, and then they sold all their land, and then they sold themselves, that that the Bible tells us that he's wise in doing that. And the interesting thing is too, even though the Bible says they made him slaves, that's different than what we understand that to be now. In that the Bible describes in that circumstance that the one thing that they had to do was pay him 30% of their grain.
And be careful.
But they chose that. That's like when you go to get a loan for something and you choose to pay 28% interest, you have chosen that.
Yeah. But be careful. Don't allow social attitudes that we have now to influence how you read the Bible and the things that happened in the Bible and in the past and the social types of things.
Basically, the social justice stuff we're putting up with now. Yeah.
You know, so don't let that social stuff, attitudes affect your mind as you're reading the Bible. Read it for the times and what was going on at the times, and learn what was going on at the times and what was acceptable behavior and what was the accepted thing and what all these things mean, because they had totally different attitudes towards things. You know I used to think in the Bible, Jesus, when he was talking to his mom, he said, woman. And I thought, oh my goodness, if my son would call me woman like that, he would live to regret it, to say that. But there was that word at that time, the way he said it was meant in love and care. Well, I was taking it from what you'd hear it now compared to what it was known for then. So you need to be really careful in judging things in the Bible and looking at things the way through the eyes of now, you know.
Okay, let's see. I was actually looking for that Bible verse to read it in context, but I can't find the whole. I mean, I know where I'm reading Joseph, but I'm trying to find that spot, but I don't know where that went. Okay, so let's see. We have. Oh, well, Laura Lee, it's good to see you. She said it's been years since she's seen us live. There you go. We're still here.
We are. Some of you have been with us for a long time. Yeah. It's amazing.
Okay, so what was her question again?
We did see it, Sarah.
Sarah's question was, what are things that you can eat, like foraging, that type of thing, mushrooms? You would just need to get a forage guide for your area.
Yeah.
There are actually books about it.
Yeah, so depends on what part of the country. Like on Montana, it's going to be totally different than Texas. So I would just look at it. That's why I haven't done a video on I mean, dandelions are pretty much the only thing I could think of across the whole entire country that people would maybe have as the same thing.
And that's one of the books we recommend. Like, you need a good medical book. You need a good book on foraging, that type of thing. How to do basic skills. Like Tara says, she has a book on butchering. We recommend a book that has all kinds of skills like that in it. And a good cookbook, really, you know, that has basic cooking, that you can make things from scratch easily, not complicated gourmet meals, but just simple things on how to make and to.
All right, question. Julie wants to know which of our cookbooks have the most recipes for simple baking and substitutions, recipes you don't have regular ingredients for, spices, dining on a dime, how to make baking powder, how to make tortillas, taco seasoning, all those, how to make buttermilk if you don't have it.
Soda crackers, graham crackers.
The first volume
pancakes. Volume 1, the red one, is the one that you want for the most basic for that.
And then the volume 2 has more stuff, but volume 1 is kind of the foundation, right?
Yeah. Donna, what would you do if you have prepared but had to flee from it to be safe, and now you have no money to start over because of crimes committed against you by your ex? Well, you just unfortunately have to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and start over again.
And we've done that before.
Yeah.
So and it's
many
doable.
times.
It's doable.
But, and you know what? In that circumstance, it would be worth walking away from it.
Yes. Do not stay. It is not worth your stockpile, your preps, whatever, to live in an abusive situation, period. It's not worth it. Yeah. So you can start over again. You'll just have to be.
And that's one of those things that don't panic over it. Take your time, start prepping again. And that's where God knows how much you can do, what you've been through, and he'll provide for you whatever you need then.
Yep. Where's the best place to shop for deals? Pedro wants to know. Just any store.
Watch the sales at the different grocery stores. Compare them to like places like Walmart, Aldi's, different places.
It just depends on doing all that.
It sounds complicated, but once you get started watching the sales and going to these places, you'll learn the prices a lot easy, and it'll start coming automatic for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, Jack, come here for a second.
Oh, Mark, how long will the food keep in a freezer if the power goes out and you don't open it?
About 3 days. So, Mom got a $25 super chat from Bird.
Oh,
for
thank
her
you.
birthday.
Oh, thank you.
And we're leaving, so we are going to sing Happy Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Nan. Hey, Mom. Happy birthday to you. Now you have to do it 71 times.
71 times.
That was 3.
Oh, thank you, guys.
She's
Thank
like
you.
Tomorrow, Mom turns 27 again.
No, Jack said I'm up to 28 now.
Oh, you're up to 28.
28.
She's 27 and 3/4 last year.
She was 27 and 3/4 last year, huh?
Yeah.
Kimberly says happy birthday.
Oh, thank you,
Loretta,
guys.
Victoria,
Thank
Sandy,
you.
Grandma 54. Everybody's telling you happy birthday. Tomorrow is Mom's birthday. I'm glad you were born so I could be born.
Yeah, I know. Without me being born, you wouldn't have been, huh?
Okay. Just making sure we didn't have any other questions. Please visit us at livingonadime.com. Check out all of our books and our planners, guys, and check out our videos. We will be back on Friday with a new video, if not before then, because the world's coming to an end, I think. So we just got to keep talking about it and talking about it. livingonadime.com.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks.